ALIAS is a third-person stealth action-adventure game that was developed by Acclaim Studios for the PlayStation 2 and Microsoft Windows PC in 2004, and this game would act as a spin-off to the television series that was airing around that time, and the plot of the game would be set somewhere between various episodes of the second season of the TV show, and the plot revolves around many of the characters and even the main protagonists that would have been seen in the TV show themselves, where they have to complete different objectives and missions to acquire data and information while completing various objectives, all while trying to uncover a sinister plot while many people go missing or end up dead. So it's up to the corporation that's involved in the series to try and gain a foothold on the events that are taking place, to try and take back all of the information and to put those that are responsible to justice. So the main style of the gameplay consists around stealth and kind of interacting with different objects, but you also have to utilise various elements that you would often see in games such as Hitman, which would have been very early ideas seen at that time, where certain missions require you to dress up in different outfits where you have to blend in with your environment and pretend to act like as if you're playing a different type of character in order to gain access to somewhere else, or to gather information, or to listen in on people's conversations so that you can find anything from the likes of access keys to passwords, or even different types of information that can help you further on in the game's missions. And then you also have to utilise various different gameplay mechanics where you have to use stealth to avoid and take out other enemy players, but to also avoid any security features such as cameras and different types of drones or any people that could be walking around the facility that could cause trouble as you progress. So many of the actions that you take in the game will have a direct influence on various sequences that will play out, and the further into the game that you get, you will uncover various elements around the game's story that again will tie into the actual TV series that was around that time. So alongside of using stealth elements, the main character, Sydney, is able to utilise various different types of weapons and gadgets, kind of almost like James Bond if you will, where they have to use specific elements to help them complete their various objectives, either from using fingerprint scanners to spiking someone's drink in order to knock them out, or to gain information from them using various kind of key codes and cards, all while using different types of combat elements from various weapons like with guns, or even using hand-to-hand combat using martial arts as well to also take out your opponents that you will face throughout play. So there's many different elements that try to add up to the game's dynamic, and while it does have some really cool features, it still didn't stop the game from getting mixed reviews among launch, stating that in many ways, while the game is a good adaptation of what was seen in the TV series, there was too many elements that at times felt like they weren't polished, but at the same time could feel quite cumbersome and clunky, and in some ways quite difficult to pick up and play, leaving for kind of like a mixed bag of elements, because at times you felt like you didn't really know what you were doing in the game, and it definitely feels like that. Like graphically it's really good, it's very reflective of its time, and it definitely has like a TV style or even a Hollywood style kind of vibe to it, with very good graphics, visuals and reflective elements, and even with the character features and facial models that have been taken from the actors seen in the TV series, which is pretty cool and in some ways was way ahead of its time. But the gameplay elements, while they are decent, they do suffer from the typical elements that you would have seen on many games on the PS2, with the clunky style controls and just the unresponsive elements at times that can often hinder your progress, sometimes even just by utilising stealth elements, due to the sensitivity or the clunkiness of the controls at times can somewhat hinder your experience, leaving you to get caught out, and can require many tries to get past many of the game's environments or overcome certain enemies in the game, which can only add to the frustration. But it really just depends what you make of it. If you genuinely like TV style games and even espionage kind of style games, and there was quite a few of them that would have been based off of TV series at the time that were released on the PlayStation 2 back during that time in the mid 2000s. So if it is something that you're into, it's definitely a game that I would consider trying out regardless of the reviews. Yes, it is clunky and at times it can be a little bit difficult to understand what's going on, but it does have a good story and a good plot, and if you're a fan of the TV series it will tie in nicely with the events, what's going on within the TV show. After the game was developed, Acclaim would also release another another version or another episode of the game or another add-on to the game that would be released in downloadable episodes, but would only be accessible for PC and Mac owners under the name Alias Underground, that would release various missions on a monthly basis that again based itself during the second season of the TV series and would require the character to complete various objectives very similar to what is seen in this game. And for quite a while it was free to gain access to and play, but because the game, obviously due to the game being nearly 20 years old at this stage, that the online features of the game have recently been announced that they will be shutting down, or if they haven't shut down already. So if it's still active, there's no harm in having a look at it, but in some cases there's a chance you probably won't be able to play it anyway. So it is what it is. That's just the reality of a lot of these games, especially with online features. And even during this early stage of the PS2, online features were still relatively a new concept for gaming at the time, and while they are cool, not every game needs to have online features in my personal opinion, because I find that no sooner has a game lost its popularity or the trend of it has died down, that the player base doesn't have the same activity online in its servers, and after a couple of years the servers are shut down, so it means that you can't get access to much of the game's content. So I think that does have an issue with a lot of modern games as such, and I genuinely think that even through the PS3 and earlier PS4 lifespan, that literally every game that was coming out, it didn't matter what it was, they were adding multiplayer elements into it, which wasn't really a good thing, because there were a lot of games out there that really should never have been put into that kind of frame. They should never have had multiplayer elements. Some games are just genuinely better left off as single player experiences. But again, it's still a different dynamic, and even for the early days of the PS2, looking back, even with this game, it was something that I think would have been appealing to many players at that time, because again, it was something new and worth trying out. But again, if you're a fan of the TV series and you genuinely like stealth, even action, espionage style games that kind of fits everything in together, this might be another alternative to look at. So I would love to know your thoughts of Alias for the PlayStation 2 and what you think of it, or did you play it back in the day, or are you even a fan of the TV show itself? I'd love to hear whatever stories you do have of this game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see more content around other types of games similar to this that were also released on the PS2, you can check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.
Well, that gives you a visual representation of the security protocols you'll have to break to get into their hard drive.